my name is Enrica Jang. I am Executive Director of Poe Baltimore and the Awards Administrator for the Saturday Visitor Awards, a new honor presented by Poe Baltimore and the Edgar Allan Poe House and Museum, recognizing a new generation of artists and writers inspired by Edgar Allan Poe. We are here this evening with William Doyle, a very special nominee in the 2020 awards because he was nominated in both categories and nominated 3 times this year for in the original works category, Extraordinary Tales in Music, and then in the adaptations of Edgar Allan Poe's life and works category, A Dream Within a Dream and The Raven. William, welcome. We're so very pleased to have you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me back. And before we start, first of all, I wanted to congratulate all the other nominees and award winners and thank the judges and thank everybody behind Poe Baltimore for everything you have done for us. This is truly a remarkable and humbling experience to have been nominated and to actually have won anything. This is the first time I've ever won anything, so this is very special for me.
Well, it's an extraordinary, if you will, extraordinary piece of work. So please tell us about Extraordinary Tales in Music. Tell us about this piece, or the entire composition.
Well, I guess it kind of goes way back to my childhood when I first encountered Edgar Allan Poe, and it left a mark when I read The Cask of Amontillado. I never forgot that. I never forgot the ending. I remember talking to my parents about it and them trying to explain it to me, and I couldn't really understand the piece. And in high school, in a poetry class, I read A Dream Within a Dream, and that began my fascination with Poe and reading about Poe. And I teach music. I'm a professor of music at El Camino College in Torrance. And in my music history classes, I often talk about the influence that literature has had on composers. And everybody from Hector Berlioz, who wrote the Symphonie Fantastique, this wonderful piece, to people that wrote ballets, Igor Stravinsky, to Debussy, all kinds of composers across the board that drew upon literature. And so somewhere in my mind, the wires got crossed, I think. And what I began to wonder was, well, what would Edgar Allan Poe have read? And what led him to the kinds of things that he wrote? So I began looking at his history, his life, read a number of biographies, read his letters, read books about him, things that he had written. And I came up with this idea of Extraordinary Tales in Music. And basically, this is sort of a hybrid of an opera with a concert. There are actually a total of 9 musical pieces in it. 7 of them have vocals. 3 of them are in particular directly related to Edgar Allan Poe. And then there are 2 pieces in there that are just purely instrumental, that function like an overture would at an opera. So as I started crafting the piece, I wanted to tell the story of Edgar Allan Poe starting at the university, again, dealing with literature as composers would have dealt with literature, as I began to deal serious with literature when I was in college. And so the piece, after a little introduction, begins with what I imagine 2 pieces that he would have read, he would have been influenced by. Certainly one was the Odyssey. In fact, he even mentions the Sirens as an introduction to the Murders at the Rue Morgue. He mentions the Sirens. So we know he read that. And I knew that he loved with his mind and imagination to let his mind travel places. So where would he have traveled? Perhaps he read about Marco Polo. Perhaps he dreamt about going to different places. I mean, in his life, he did travel. He was educated, of course, in England, but he traveled to different cities in America. And I imagined, well, what if he could travel back to where his paternal grandfather came from Ireland? That's the second part of the opera. And then the third part deals specifically with 3 of his works. It deals with Dream Within a Dream, this incredibly beautiful but ambiguous poem that takes us into the mind of Edgar Allan Poe, his meeting his Lenore, if you will. The second piece is The Raven. Certainly, it's got to be one of his 2 or 3 most well-known pieces. And then ending with, again, the story that captivated me as a youth and still does, and that would be The Cask of Amontillado. Now, in between the major pieces, there are monologues. We really wanted to have live actors, but unfortunately, at the time we put this together, the college was having a Shakespeare festival and they were doing The Tempest and all the actors were involved. So what do? I'm not going to do it because I'm actually conducting it. So what we decided to do is we would shoot the monologues with voiceovers. And a couple of really talented people that I have to mention. My wife, Wendy, who did all the art design, John Brennick, who did the video, and Nate Ramsey. And the three of them worked together to take pictures, images from Edgar Allan Poe of what his room looked like, to make a 3D model of it, to literally in these monologues put Poe as the speaker, telling us a little bit about what's going on in his life, where he is, what he's thinking about. And so that's how the whole concert opera flows, with monologues in between the major pieces, taking us from basically his time at the University of Virginia all the way through to the end of the Cask of Amontillado, with the point being the way Montresor walls up Fortunato is sort of what Poe did to his critics, people that criticized him, people that said negative things about him, even after he died. His works have withstood the test of time. In essence, he's walled up his critics. That's sort of an overview of this 90-minute piece that we only had 3 hours to rehearse. Wednesday night before the concert, that was it. We had 3 hours. We had a 1-hour tech dress rehearsal, and then we just did the thing. So the musicians who played on it, my colleagues, phenomenal job to pull all of that together with about 4 hours worth of rehearsal. So that's kind of the overview.
Well, that is absolutely incredible. And it sounds like a nerve-wracking experience as well. 3 hours, that's amazing. But such a beautiful, beautiful thing with multiple pieces. So I know that we don't choose among our children in terms of our favorite, but there must be something close to your heart, or must have been a favorite part that was deeply personal for you. Is there a specific piece that really just appealed?
Well, hard to say. I will say that probably the ending of the Cask of Amontillado, as I was working on it, I would play it, and my wife, who did the art design for it, was downstairs, and she kept saying, darker, darker, heavier. And so I kept adding and adding and adding. We talked to the vocalist, Anthony Moreno, Dr. Moreno, who's an incredibly talented singer, who helped with some of the direction on it. And he just threw himself into the role of it. In fact, even at the end of, I think it was at the end of The Raven and then at the end of the cast, you could hear people in the audience just go, oh, they're just so captivated by how he just threw himself and literally became Edgar Allan Poe. And, you can't ask for much more than that. So if I had to pick a moment, it might be the end of the cast, because if you watch the broadcast of it, the live performance, it just, when it ends and it goes to black, there's just total silence. The audience didn't know what to do. And that could either be a good thing or a bad thing. It's like, oh God, they didn't get it. They hated it. They left. I don't know. I turned my back to conduct and they left. Or it could be they were really, and then they got a standing ovation after it. So apparently it really hit home. So my wife was right. Darker, darker, heavier.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, absolutely. Well, we are all the better for it. And congratulations on this incredible win for the entire piece. William did win the Saturday Visitor Award in the Original Works category for Extraordinary Tales in Music. Well, William, we've reached the end of our time, but please tell us how to find more of your work, and where can we find you?
Well, you can go onto my YouTube page. You can just put in Extraordinary Tales in Music, or you can put in Dr. William E. Doyle, either way, and you'll come to it. And there's a number of things that are up on there, including some things we're working on now, some new things. And I'm actually working on something for Poe for Halloween for my students. My college students have asked me, do you have more? Is there more that you're going to do? I said, I have something coming up. So hopefully it'll be ready by Halloween, and maybe we'll enter next year in the festival.
Well, we look forward to seeing more of this incredible work. Thank you, William. Have a wonderful evening. Congratulations on your win.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. And I see our folks out there, and William is wonderful. I see Liam out there now, and he has been tremendous support the last several weeks. We've been showing these interviews by many of the nominees. and the winners. And so so pleased to finally be able to show his interview. Hey, William, how you doing? And I do hope that he's kept his promise and he will submit a piece this year for the awards. But hi, everyone. Enrica here again. It's always funny for me, just personal note, to see that video when we did these. This is just a couple of months ago, but then I still have COVID here, so it's all time's just passing, time's just flying by. And speaking of time, tomorrow, just in just a few hours, it's 8 o'clock. I can't do math in my head really quickly, but at midnight, first thing in the morning, we will be opening the portal for the 2021 call for entries for the Saturday Visitor Awards. Tonight is the night, and I know if you're watching this, you are getting ready to submit. We calling all creators, calling any creator inspired by Edgar Allan Poe, either adapting his works or creating original works inspired by this author that has moved us all, moved the world. We're looking forward to this year's crop of entries, looking forward to all of the submissions, and cannot wait to announce the judges that for our slate this year. The slate coming together, will be announcing those soon. So welcome, everybody. Well,